Hello, beautiful souls. How are you all doing on this beautiful Saturday, day 20 of Life Coaching Month at the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts? Can you believe we're already in day 20 of this new year? Oh my goodness. Hi, Becca. Hi, everybody who's watching. Welcome in, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome. Just getting set up over here. Ooh, there we go. Hi, Mandy. How are you guys? Welcome, everyone that's here. So you guys, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Sclafani. I'm an intuitive life coach, energy healer, crystal healer, and lover of all things intuition. Namaste, my friends. Welcome. So, today I was really guided to talk a little bit about trusting intuition. And we touched on it a little bit last week. So if you were with us, we did kind of talk about trusting your gut, trusting intuition, but it kind of hit me today that trust is so important. It really was worthy of a full session talking about trust and really delving deep into trust. Oh, beautiful Mandy. Mandy just taught yoga and now she's ready to take an internal wisdom from me. Oh, well, thank you, my friend. Your wisdom is very welcome as well. Welcome everyone that's here. Hi, Sue. How are you, my friend? Welcome everybody. So, you guys, I wanted to start today with a poem that is one of my absolute favorite poems in the world and is really part of the inspiration about speaking of trust today. And, for those of you who know me, you know that I am a tarot reader. I am very involved in reading tarot. It's one of my passions is learning the system of tarot. Hey, Taylor. And so the card that actually really inspired today's session, I just want to read a poem by William Apollinaire. I hope I said his name correctly. William. I'm not sure, but Mr. Apollinaire had this poem to say, and it goes hand in hand with this tarot card, which is all about trust, and that is the Fool card, okay? So I just want to read this poem to you. Come to the edge, life said. We can't, we're afraid, they responded. Come to the edge, life said. We can't, we will fall, they said. Come to the edge, life said. And so they came. Life pushed them, and they flew. My friends, this is everything that the Fool card is about. Allowing life to push you so that you can fly. And if we are going to fly in this life, you can bet your bottom dollar that trust is a key component to us taking flight. And that's what this card really is about, is that the Fool represents this young person who barely has anything to his name, just a satchel on his back and his dog friend next to him, and yet he is trusting in life. The white flower right here represents purity and trust, and he is trustfully walking off this cliff, knowing that life is going to push him and he is going to fly. So my intention for this session is that each and every one of us can trust our wings just a little bit more, and that if we haven't already, we can begin to take flight. Welcome everybody that just came in. Hello, lovely souls. Welcome, you guys. So, you guys, let's talk a little bit about trust. I am so curious to see where you guys are on the spectrum of trust. Are you living from a trusting place? Do you wish that you could trust more in your daily life? Do you wish you could trust your own intuition more? I mean, that's where it all starts with, right? Is trusting ourselves, trusting within ourselves, trusting our intuition. And then we notice that we begin to trust others more. And we begin to trust life more. We begin to trust the divine plan more. One of my favorite sayings is TTP, trust the process, right? But it's easy to say TTP. Are you really TTPing? Because that's where the challenge comes in. How can you TTP? Becca, don't you love that poem? I know, that is so powerful. So powerful. So, I think one reason why I kind of changed the way the session was going today, because I originally wanted to come with you guys with some different information about, using cards in intuitive sessions and using kind of oracle cards to help build your intuition. But it's funny because the very cards that I was going to talk about kind of told me to go in a different direction. So I actually want to show you which card. It is also the Fool, but it's in a different deck, and it's called the Dreamer. And when I asked the cards, and I asked my intuition and the divine what topic we could focus on today that was going to be really helpful, I pulled the Dreamer reversed. And the Dreamer reversed, or the Fool reversed, really represents not connecting to our trust, having issues connecting to our trust, and thus not allowing our dreams to truly come true. So in order for us to live our most full, joyful, impactful life, trust really has to be there with us. Hey, Sue. So Sue says, a bird sitting in a tree is not afraid of the branch breaking because her trust is not in the branch, but in her own wings. Ah, Sue, you're gonna make me cry. Thank you for that. That is absolutely beautiful. So beautiful. Becca is so trusting of all that happens, of all this love, this reminder. Oh, perfect. Okay, so Camille says, I love that so much. Learning to trust on myself and the universe. Trusting my gifts and learning them. It's been quite the journey so far. Looking forward to what's next. Amen, Camille. Ain't it a journey? That's one thing, is that on our journey of life, trust is going to be there, or it's not going to be there the whole time. I mean, trust is something that we really, whether we like to think it or not, whether we're comfortable with trusting and surrendering or we're not, I mean, it's not going to change that we must find peace and strength in trust, because the truth is we don't know what's next. We are kind of all walking through the clouds. And I thought it was funny that it's such a beautifully cloudy, rainy day here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where usually it's super sunny. But I thought it was a good metaphor. The weather was kind of saying, when the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, I can offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love. Thank you, Adele. But I thought that Adele song was so perfect for describing trust. Are we allowing trust's warm embrace to guide us and to comfort us as we walk through the clouds and the storm? So thank you guys for all being here. Thank you so much. So many beautiful sentiments already. So you guys, first of all, I really think that trust is so similar to love. In fact, I've heard quotes, and I think I heard it on a tea bag once, that said, love without trust is like a river without water. And I know last week we kind of spoke about, getting in touch with your intuition and trusting your intuition really is less about the mind. Although, the mind isn't terrible, but it's less about the mind, more about your heart. More about your love, living from your love, living from your heart space, and allowing that love to create trust in your life. So I wrote some notes about trust and just what I wanted to talk about today, because obviously we could talk for quite some time about trust, but truly what I want to do is kind of ask you guys, if you have been betrayed before, or if your trust is broken in some way, I would love for you to share about your experiences with trust, either how you lost your trust, or more importantly, how you regained your trust and how you allowed trust's warm embrace into your life. Now, I will say that one of my favorite speakers on trust is Brené Brown. And I just want to make sure I'm not missing any comments here. Okay. And Brené Brown defines trust. Here we go. Let me see here. Okay. So she defines trust as choosing to make something important to you vulnerable to the actions of someone else. Isn't that interesting? So with trust does come great vulnerability. And I know many of us can feel sometimes that we are not comfortable with being vulnerable, that we have to buy into the illusion that we are in control. And the truth is, honey, rarely are we in control. It is about TTP, trusting the process. And that can be very uncomfortable for us. So if you personally have some issues with trust, or like I said, you've learned to trust again after being betrayed, after having your vulnerabilities be betrayed, please share your experience, because I would love to talk to you about that. Any questions you have on trust, let's get the conversation going. But, thinking of how to build trust or rebuild trust, sometimes it may feel like it's all or nothing. Sometimes it may feel like either we're, completely trusting, or we're just completely shut off from trust. And, like the law of attraction, if we're living in trust, if we trust ourselves, of course we're going to attract trustworthy people, trustworthy situations, know who to trust, and if something doesn't seem right. One of my favorite sayings this week came from Sharon Rose, and that's painting the red flags white. How many of us would rather paint red flags we're getting white so that we don't have to deal, so that the red flags don't push us out of our comfort zone? Part of comfort, and Brene says this as well, and I'll say this in a second, but part of trusting is knowing that truly trusting, we are going to be pushed outside of our comfort zone. So do you have the courage to move out of comfort so that you can truly trust your intuition, trust what you're getting? So Becca says, I think we've all been burned in the past. Amen, sister. In relationships. But the lessons are in learning to trust again. Opening one's heart to all experiences and lessons is key. Absolutely, Becca. Opening the heart completely. And sometimes, you tell somebody who's just been burned, or that's been burned repeatedly, because remember, again, what we put out is what we attract. If we've been burned and then we decide that, okay, the world is untrustworthy. I can't trust my own gut. I can't trust other people. I can't trust in life. Once we make that choice and that decision, all of life moves to support our choices. So you are right that now everything that comes into your life is going to prove that you cannot trust. So how do we reverse that? How do we reverse lack of trust and begin to trust again, even when we've been proven right that you really can't trust anybody? You can't even trust yourself. That's a difficult place to be in. So Mandy says, I lost my son. Oh, I'm so sorry, Mandy. He was 11 hours old. I was 21. I lost trust, but my inner knowing guided me into trusting my path. This heartbreak actually allowed me to be vulnerable. I showed up honoring life, giving up eating meat, and the rest, I can't see the comment. Oh my goodness. Mandy, thank you so much for sharing that. And that is one thing. That's probably one of the most difficult things to ever experience in life, huh? Losing somebody, and especially losing a child. There's few worse things in this life and few harder things, especially when it comes to trust, right? So Mandy, I commend you for finding your inner voice again, allowing your intuition to lead you back into trusting your path. That is something definitely to be honored for. And, I believe that there are levels of trust because, of course, first, it starts with ourselves. The truth is, if you're not trusting yourself, it's going to be pretty damn difficult to trust others. And if you can't trust others, it's going to be very difficult to trust life. And if you can't trust in your life, then you know what? It's almost impossible to trust in the divine plan, that great mystery that creates instances in our life, losses, devastation, setbacks. How could you ever trust that that's going right if you can't even trust yourself and begin at the very beginning? So if nothing else, it is about starting to trust ourselves, trusting our intuition. Because when we do trust our intuition, even the most seemingly horrific things that may happen seemingly to us we can begin to see that all happenings, all situations are happening for us in the great scheme of things. Much easier said than done, right? But really, what it starts with, and when it comes to building trust, one thing that I really want to impart is that building trust, again, is not night and day. Like, okay, now you're trusting, the divine, and then now you're not. It's really built in small, gradual bits. And, it comes from consistent integrity. That's really what I've taken back after really sitting with trust. And, this was actually, this topic brought up a lot of emotions within me. Really kind of delving into trust and then having to really put up the mirror and ask myself, am I completely trusting? How much am I trusting myself and my intuition? I teach this, I live intuition, and yet delving into the topic of trust, I began to see how challenging it can be at times to really trust your intuition. And so when we can begin to trust ourselves in gradual increments and really live in integrity with ourselves, trust begins to culminate, to build and snowball, and before you know it, we are completely trusting of life's divine plan. Hi, Chantel. Welcome, my dear. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I want to see what I missed really quickly. Camille says, so I think my whole life I spent losing my trust in those closest to me. I'm 32, and just in this last year, a soulmate left my life in a heartbreaking way. I really am starting to focus on myself for the first time in my life, and then I can't see what else is there. And thank you so much, Camille. That, again, such a vulnerable place to be. And I want us to notice how two of these ladies went through circumstances and experiences where they could have easily just completely forfeited their trust, just completely shut down trust. And the commonality between both of them is that it came back to trusting in themselves, trusting in their path. So really, truly, I believe that's where it all begins. If you want to make sure that you're surrounded with trustworthy friends, you can trust in your career path, you can trust in your divine life purpose, you can trust in life to provide for you, it begins with trusting in yourself. So how do we do that, especially after we've been burned, after we've been hurt? Well, every moment we have an opportunity to build trust or to build betrayal. Again, this came from Brené Brown. There's so much. I highly recommend checking out Brené's take on trust and what she has to say, because it really is so true. In every moment, we have an opportunity to build trust with other people and to build trust with ourselves, or to betray ourselves and to betray other people, to betray our intuition. And I can tell you, one of the things, the most powerful things that helped me to trust my intuition is betraying my intuition. Is knowing that when it really comes down to it, when you're getting an intuitive hit, but you start to think your way out of it, or you get a feeling or a knowing, turn right, but your mind says, turn left. Turning left is the way home. Already, by turning left and not trusting your intuition, the truth is you betrayed yourself just a little bit. And those little mini betrayals work their way into major betrayals. And then before you know, you're unwittingly betraying others. So trust is a snowball, and it has so much momentum and power behind it. So how do we begin to live in intuitive integrity? And one more thing I want to say from Brené is also how she defines integrity, and this so resonates. And Brené Brown defines integrity by putting courage over comfort, by doing what's right over doing what's fun, and by practicing your values over professing your values. Pretty deep stuff, huh? I mean, it's pretty easy to say, oh yeah, I trust in myself, I trust in the world, but are you having the courage to break out of your comfort zone? Because I'll tell you what, trusting your intuition does not lead you sometimes to the easiest choices. there can be some major resistance in working and taking action on your intuition. Do you have the courage to step out of your comfort zone? Do you have the courage to do the right thing, even though everyone around you wants to do the fun thing or the easy thing? And do you have what it takes to walk the talk and not just talk about the walk, okay? All right, so I just want to scroll down and see what we have. Thank you all for being here, really. Trust is so key. All right, so you guys, so one thing that I want to talk about is, not only slow thinking versus fast thinking and how that kind of incorporates into trusting your intuition, but really over my years of paying attention to my intuition and observing my intuition, when I was truly in trust and when I was in my head or in judgment, is there's a really cool trick to knowing the intuitive voice that you can trust. And again, it's a challenge. You have to have courage to really do it, but it's about the first thing that pops into your mind, the first feeling, the first knowing, the first bodily gut reaction or physical reaction to what you're receiving, whether it comes down to the direction to go, a decision to make. It's about the first thing through the gate before we have a chance to kind of talk ourselves out of it. And let me tell you, you talk about fast thinking, you've got to be really quick to understand what the intuitive voice is. I mean, it's going to be the first thing that comes to you. And when I say the first thing, it's not like a slow, I'm thinking about it and maybe that was the first thing that came to me. It's like before you even have time to consciously think, it's like a first hit. It's that first intuitive feeling, knowing, thought. And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, when I really paid attention and acted on the first thing through the gate, whether it was about picking up on a situation that I was in, picking up for a client, making a yes-no decision, the first thing is always your intuition speaking, okay? And then, no matter how well conditioned we are to have negative thoughts or talk ourselves out of things, when we are coming from a centered place, back to being centered, how important that is to trust, the first thing that comes through is usually what we can trust. So I invite you to really pay attention to the very first thing that comes into your mind, that comes into your heart, because that is going to be your intuition speaking. That is the voice you can trust. Hey Richard, welcome my friend, welcome. So if you're just joining, we are talking trust and how you can build trust and live a life in trust. How you can TTP, trust the process. Not always so easy. So one thing that I want to also mention is to pay attention to your patterns. Because part of trust, it would be nice to say that all of us can just trust the first thing through the gate, but also to really pay attention to how we've been living in the past. Really, when we heard a certain voice, say something, and instead of going left, we went right, how did that turn out for you? What patterns? Do you have a pattern of trusting your intuition, or do you have a pattern of talking yourself out of things? And I'm gonna have you guys look at your toes in a second, because there's a couple of toes you can look at to see if you might be inclined to do just that. And once you're aware of it, it's so powerful. Awareness is another key. Am I living in trust? Or am I kind of doubting everything and talking myself into a counterfeit trust? So I just want to check my notes really here and make sure I'm not missing anything, because, usually I just go with the flow, but today my intuition was telling me, write some notes, and I trusted that voice. So I'm glad I have them. But yes, trust is built in very small amounts. So I'm not expecting you, and the universe is not expecting you all of a sudden to just live in perfect trust out of nowhere. It is a journey. And so it's about embracing the journey and learning. We're gonna be here for a long time, guys. I mean, we came to this planet with a very important mission. Each and every one of us has a very important mission that only we can fulfill. And to fulfill that mission, it's gonna take trust. And so you are not wasting any time surrendering to the journey of trust and allowing yourself to have a process with learning how to trust. Building a relationship, absolutely, Richard. Your intuition is your personal guide. Build a relationship. Think about your relationship with people. I mean, very seldomly do we meet somebody and trust them completely off the bat. That relationship has to be built, and it's the same with your relationship with trust. Take your time with it, feel it out, and understand how you are coming to trust. Not some kind of counterfeit trust, because it's easier and it feels safer to say that you trust, I trust. Are you really trusting, and are you acting on that trust? But it comes in little increments, and I think that's what's so important, is that it starts small. That's building the relationship with trust. If you're on your way home and you're driving the way that you always drive, but a little voice inside of you says, go left. But you say, that's crazy, because I know this route. I need to go home to be on time for dinner, and I'm just gonna keep going the way I know to go. Taking me left would take me out of the way. It makes no sense. And then you continue going straight, and boom, there's backed up traffic for miles because there's been an accident ahead of you. That is such a beautiful, juicy moment to say, aha, write that down, my friends. Take note of that little voice that tried to make you go left. It's very powerful. But in those tiny moments, we begin to build our relationship with trust, and we begin to say, okay, little voice, I heard you. Versus, it just made sense to go straight. So you guys, I want to ask, I missed some comments. Becca says, I think trusting also requires a conscious effort in building a soul supportive story that we build around experiences. Absolutely, Becca. That is so important. A soul supportive story. Becca, do me a favor. Let me ask you, because that sounds so powerful. What is a soul supportive story that you've created, that you've built around your experiences? How can you help others to build that soul supportive story? Because that's major. Do we feel supported in trusting our intuition? Okay. Just reading these comments. Thank you so much for sharing, ladies. You trust yourself and your authentic self will rise. Absolutely, Luna. You are right on there. It's amazing what is born from trust. Absolutely. Oh, you guys are so welcome. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Okay, yes, and using your 5 senses. Absolutely, Richard. It is. It's about using our 5 senses and our 6th sense, of course. Learning that we have that kind of out of nowhere, even if we're not, physically smelling it, hearing it, tasting it, feeling it. I don't know if I said that already, but even if it's something beyond the 5 senses, if it's coming through as a gut reaction, as a first thought, before you have a chance to talk yourself out of it, that's going to be your intuition talking. Now, I actually want to tell you guys a quick story, because one of these instances that I learned about trusting your intuition, even when it doesn't make sense, actually happened almost 10 years ago when my mother drove down, was driving home. Sorry, my timer off. We're gonna wrap this up, but it was when she was driving home and something told her to drive through a new development that was still under construction. It was a gated community, and it was like a shortcut to our house at the time. And something told her to go down that road. And she thought, but that doesn't make sense. It's after 6 p.m. The gates are already closed. I won't be able to go down that road. And she talked herself out of it. And as she kept driving, again, the voice came in even stronger, because remember, sometimes we have extra divine help from our guides, from ancestors, helping us to trust our gut and trust our intuition. And she actually turned the car around and said, you know what? Something's just telling me to drive down this road. She drove into the development. The gates were open. She drove through, and out of the corner of her eye, when she was almost through the shortcut, she saw a car that looked crashed or abandoned in a ditch. And she thought, oh, that's weird. I don't know who would come here in this, new development to trash their car, and kept driving. But again, something knocked at her. Some internal voice pulled at her, and she backed up, went to go check, and she thought, let me just make sure, because this just doesn't feel right. Went to where the car was crashed, and it turned out to be my father. And my father was standing there, bloody, totally beat up, in a daze, with his shirt ripped and his pants ripped, holding his briefcase. And he looked up and he saw my mom. And he was like, Marisa, what are you doing here? And she's like, what are you doing here? Oh my God. My dad would have died. He would have died. He crashed his car into a wall. Would have died if they would have shut the gates on him and no one would have come to check on him. So even though everything logical was saying, that's not going to work, the gates are closed, I won't be able to make it through, she trusted her intuition enough, even after she had to be kind of like knocked on her head a couple of times, to go down that road. So my point is, life will lead us places. Your intuition will lead you places that you don't think logically make sense. Part of the process of trusting is by letting go of logic and trusting that inner voice. So powerful. It really was. So last night, Mandy had a dream that we didn't have a room to practice yoga in due to construction. This morning, I showed up with no place to teach. I brought my portable speaker to prep for the event, and you breezed through it, it sounded like. I can't see the rest of the comment. But do you see, our intuition will speak to us in so many ways, especially in dreams. So thank you guys so much for being here today. Each time I'm so concerned about, how we're going to fill the time, and then my timer goes off and it feels like it's been 2 minutes. But my point is, my friends, we all have trust built into us. It's our choice whether we are going to have the integrity and the courage to live from our trust, or we are going to allow logic and our thinking mind to talk us out of the illogical and out of our trust and our intuition. So I am praying that each and every one of you people who all have a unique divine life purpose for this world can learn bit by bit, brick by brick, to choose trusting yourself over betraying yourself. And I pray that life will push you to the edge and that you will fly. I love you all so much, and I trust each and every one of you to fulfill the reason why you are here on this earth. If you want to talk to me, please feel free to continue the conversation on my Facebook page. You can message me at Crystal Queer. You can also message my private personal Facebook page, Michael Sclafani. I look forward to connecting with each and every one of you. And I thank you and honor all of you for being here. So much love, my friends. And until day 21, we'll see you later. Mwah.